Hey selectors, I'm Jack, and this is the Assist Line. Grand Prix Dallas has come and gone, and I'm here to give you selectors at home the good old Texas Roundup. There's a lot to talk about, so let's start with the location. The WIXOSS Dallas Grand Prix took place in Dallas, Texas on December 7th, 2024 in one of the many event spaces inside the Dallas Renaissance Hotel. Located just outside the major city center, the Renaissance is the largest and tallest building in the surrounding area. In fact, it was so large that my friends and I got lost a few times navigating our way to and from the event space. Zooming out at the city itself for a moment, Dallas proved to be a fantastic destination for the Grand Prix. The city offers a huge variety of great food, fun entertainment, and proved a lot easier to get around than I expected. The Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, however, was pretty confusing to navigate, both arriving and departing. However, if you weren't staying in the swanky Renaissance Hotel or flying first class, the trip was pretty affordable for a destination GP. Overall, I thought Dallas was a great choice and I'd definitely go back. Now, let's move on to the state of the game before the GP. In the previous GP, Desona had proven to be the deck to beat, particularly Nanashi Desona easily securing the title of the strongest deck in the meta. With that in mind, many players looked to Desona as they planned for the Dallas GP. However, a new challenger, CPO2 or Blue Archive, had been released only weeks before the GP. Blue Archive was unsolved territory even in Japan, so the set was absolutely a wild card coming into Dallas. This was because in Japan all the big CPO2 events were Blue Archive only, so no one brewed Blue Archive to run into other decks. That being the fact, many different playgroups intensely tested the set and tried to figure out the secret sauce of Blue Archive. Before the GP, word on the street was that a very strong Audacity deck and a very scary looking Neru deck were going to make an appearance. So, would Desona continue its reign of terror, or would Blue Archive come in and change everything? Or yet, would someone brew some crazy stuff with P14 and the Vasone L-Rigs? It felt like no one really knew. One thing was for sure, any deck that wanted to rise to the top in Dallas would have to at least tech against Blue Archive, becoming more resilient to its powerful discard, and getting craftier to get around its walls and shadow at level 1 and 2. No matter what, Blue Archive, being a popular title and a powerful set, was expected to bank a big showing at the GP. So with the stage set, let's get to the GP itself. In total, 85 people showed up to fight for the 2 invites to the Mugen Shoujo Cup in Japan, and it was obvious that people were excited for Blue Archive. There were some that showed up cosplaying as band Kazusa from the mobile game's recent event, and even the Game Development Club's own twins, Midori and Momoi, made an appearance.
Well, we are at the Dallas GP. We are live with Midori and Momoi. Very lucky they showed up here. So, guys, I just wanted to ask you a few quick questions. Number 1, you're Blue Archive players, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Awesome. Been playing for a long time?
Fairly long, yeah.
Great. Me too. Love the game. And were you WIXOSS players before Blue Archive came out?
Yes.
Awesome. And what did you play before Blue Archive?
I am a Yuki and Fiona stan, and I will die on that hill.
I like playing Dona, I like playing Mew, I like playing Lion.
All great choices. All great choices. All right. And today, did both of you pilot Blue Archive?
Yes.
And did both decks have Midori and Momoi in them?
Yes.
Yes.
That is so awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming. It's great to see you. It's like awesome to have the flavor for the costume with first Blue Archive GP. And again, thanks so much.
Thanks again to those awesome players for repping some great characters from Blue Archive. As you can imagine by all of the excitement, Blue Archive was absolutely a force in the GP's overall deck population. Azusa and Neru were by far the most represented in Blue Archive, but Shiroko and Hina both made their own appearances. As for the rest of the field, many players came to defend Nanashi Desona's crown for the strongest deck. Other than those 3 main competitors, the rest of the field, diverse as it was, had definitely been tooled to beat the looming monster of Blue Archive. And anyone who made those adjustments was definitely right to do so, as Blue Archive was a major showing at Dallas. As the tournament day went on, both of the looming giants, Blue Archive and Nanashi, made their way to the final rounds. After round 7 and the cut to top 8, there were 4 Nanashi decks, 3 Azusa decks, and 1 Mew deck running the Blue Archive Signy package. Also of note, the assist lines of all the Nanashi decks and all the Azusa decks were exactly the same. Every Azusa deck was playing Monica and Rei, and every Nanashi deck was playing Mel and Monica. Monica Float and Dub appeared in 7 of the 8 top 8 deck lists. Every Nanashi deck ran the same pieces Unrest and Xenocluster, and every Azusa deck was packing Kronos and Tea Party. In fact, there was very little variance in any of the Azusa and Nanashi builds. But enough about that. You want to know how things went after the top cut. Well, in the first round of Top Cut, the 4 Nanashi decks played mirror matches, and Azusa fought with herself and Mew. After that, 2 Nanashi decks and 2 Azusa decks were left. In the second round of Top Cut, Azusa and Nanashi finally fought, and both Azusa decks came out on top. A Nanashi mirror match was fought for third place, and the Azusa mirror, running the exact same deck list, played for first and second. To no one's surprise, Azusa won the day. Congratulations to all the top 8 players for their amazing skill and accomplishment in placing where they did. And of course, a major congratulations to the Azusa and Azusa players that secured those coveted invites to the Mugen Shoujo World Cup in Japan. A link to every top 8 deck list is in the description. With any luck, some interviews of the top players about their days and about their decks should be up soon. Now, for those of you wondering, let me tell you about my GP experience. It all started when P12 came out. I'd been brewing Hanao Desona since she dropped. I'd changed assist lines, I'd changed pieces, I'd changed the entire deck strategy, but no matter what I did, I could never get it right. Back then, and several months to follow, I was sure I'd be playing Hanao in any upcoming GP where Desona was still even a little viable. But alas, as time went on, I couldn't seem to land on a build I was happy with. So when the GP came closer, and as I got busier with a lot going on in my personal life, I didn't have much direction. I brewed some stuff, did some testing with my friends, and ultimately landed on a moderately spicy alpha deck that I was fairly happy with. So I brought that to Dallas when I flew in late Thursday evening. On Friday, my friends and I ate some great food out on the town, and we visited a local game store to get some testing in and shop for some new sleeves. Let me tell you, Common Ground Games in Dallas is the place to be. I've never seen such an amazing store with so much play space, fantastic selection of merchandise, and a truly welcoming environment. Great vibes here, without a doubt. Ironically, as the day went on, we decided to head back to the hotel and see if anyone else was gathering, just as some other GP goers decided to head over to Common Ground to check it out for themselves. We didn't miss everyone though. We met up with some great people, both old and new faces, and we talked and played WIXOSS until late into the night when we finally had to submit our deck lists. In the end, I totally chickened out of playing Alpha and asked my buddy if I could borrow his Azusa deck, which I'd never played before. Let me tell you something, selectors. I had no delusions of doing well at this GP, what with not having decided on a deck and not having played a lot of games leading up to it. I just wanted to go and have some fun, maybe get a few good games in. But good lord, I did not think my first rounds would be that bad. Borrowing a deck the night before a GP thinking, oh yeah, I've never played this deck but I know basically what it does, is a recipe for disaster. In the first round, I played against a Neru deck and forgot several important triggers during my turns, including my second bond. I still managed to navigate to a close finish with both of us at 0 life cloth after almost going to time, but in the end I couldn't squeeze it out. It didn't help that in a 10-turn game of constant top checking and drawing, I didn't guard once. Starting the day at 0-1 never feels great, but people have come back from worse. But things were definitely going to get worse. The moment I sat down against my second round opponent, I got the worst case of nerves I'd ever experienced in the tournament setting. Here I was playing a deck I had no idea how to pilot in a competitive environment, not having practiced or concentrated barely at all coming to the GP. I tried to remind myself that I just wanted to come and play, but it didn't stop the mom spaghetti I was making. Let me tell you, I might have played the worst and most embarrassing game of WIXOSS my entire career that round. My hands were shaking, I was dropping cards, I forgot how cards I knew before worked, and by the halfway point I'd managed to create a board that was over limit. My opponent asked if I'd like to call a judge to see if we could fix the game state, but being far too embarrassed to continue, I told him I'd just scoop. I will not lie to you, at that moment I considered not only dropping from the tournament, but further dropping out of card games for good. I'd never felt that jittery and out of my element before, and to be honest, it felt really bad. But my opponent was a very good sport about the whole thing. He offered to play a casual match with me while the other players finished up, which I took him up on. He even gave me a few tips on piloting the Azusa deck, which, worth mentioning, he was playing too, though a different version than I'd so foolishly borrowed. So after the round, I went outside, took a deep breath, and decided that after flying halfway across the country, there was no point in just sulking back to the hotel feeling like a total moron. I went on to the third round with an impressive 0-2 record. Third round, I got my chance at redemption against the Neru deck. This version was a little more black heavy, but the principles of discard you out and kill your stuff were still the main strat. I did make some sloppy plays, but I did manage to keep my head on straight for most of the match, and I piloted Azusa with a tiny shred of know-how to victory. Now we were 1-2. Not great, but at least I didn't go 0-3 drop. After round 3, the tournament broke for a 1-hour lunch break. which, let me tell you, is one of the best things about the WIXOSS GPs. That lunch break is critical and awesome. It should definitely continue to be a tradition. Fourth round, I played against something totally different. Remember Desona and her partner Signy Sadistal. Playing an unfamiliar deck into a matchup I knew virtually nothing about was pretty scary, but I did know the Desona package overall, and that helped a lot. Unfortunately, the match was pretty slow due to both my opponent and I being soft-spoken and having trouble communicating over the extremely wide game tables. In the end, I passed the turn back to him, knowing that he couldn't kill me this turn and I had him dead the next turn, but we were about to go to time. I was mentally prepping for the disappointment of a double loss, but in a generous move, my opponent surrendered instead. I gladly accepted the surrender and moved on to the next match at 2-2, praying that maybe, just maybe, I could pull off the saltiest of salty runbacks. Round 5, I got another shot at redemption by playing the Azusa mirror again. This Azusa was a bit different, but again the main idea was the same. Even though my play was still a little sloppy in parts, I was starting to get the idea and I ended up winning this mirror match. At that, my record was 3-2 and man did it feel good to be positive again. Round 6, I played against something I knew all too well, Anj. I played Anj at the Florida GP and I've played her since. I know how scary that deck is when it works, but my opponent and I both knew that Anj lives and dies by the burst. And when Eldora Burst Rush doesn't do anything for you and your opponent bursts early, it's tough going for Anj. For the Anj player, it just wasn't his round, and I ended the game at 5 life cloth. Sometimes things go your way, but sometimes they don't. And unfortunately for Anj and so many other dash decks, that's just the coin flip you take. That left me at 4-2. The dream of the 5-2 comeback was alive and well. Sure, a 4-2 record isn't too impressive coming from the O2 bracket, but I was excited. Then came round 7. In the ultimate irony, I faced the deck that I lost the courage to play, Alpha. Now this Alpha was pretty different than mine, but I knew the game, and with a few rounds of Azusa under my belt, I felt a lot more confident. But that game was an uphill struggle. I drew into a lot of servants early that got Umar cleared away, I didn't really burst into anything helpful, and despite keeping my opponent's hand low, he was consistently drawing into answers. It came down to these final turns. He played a piece I hadn't anticipated, Instigate. But that was fortunate, as it only allowed him to open one hole to attack through, and no matter what happened, he didn't have lethal. He also went down to 1 enter, meaning he wouldn't be able to play his 3-stop Mel that I thought might be coming, so the turn was passed back to me, and through some dumb Azusa stuff, I was able to threaten lethal. The only thing that would save him was bursting some kind of hard stop on the first life cloth, which the odds were pretty low based on what I'd seen of the discard pile. But like I said, sometimes things go your way, and sometimes they don't. That first life cloth was the exact thing to save him, an opening signal to vanish my attacker and keep me from swinging for the kill. At 0 life cloth myself, no assists, and a newly opened hole on the board, all he had to do was untap, draw, and swing. And so the day came to a close with the 5-2 dream dead, instead giving me a not great but not terrible 4-3 record. I still ended up in the top 32 somehow, so I was pretty happy about that. Overall, the day was very fun. Even when the top cut happened, I didn't stop playing. That night, I played games until they kicked us out of the venue. So what did we learn? First, no matter how things go, the best thing to do is to enjoy yourself and have a good time playing WIXOSS. Second, don't just waltz into a GP with a deck you've never played. Would I do that again? Not if I could help it. But would I go again? Without a single doubt. Grand Prix Dallas was some of the most fun I've had at a GP. I thought the venue and location were great, the company was even better, and overall, the event was run smooth and professionally. A big shout out to the judges for making that possible. They even took the time to announce top L regs despite there not being any top L reg prizing. And forgive me for interjecting a small rant here, but why the heck did we stop doing that? Top L reg prizing was absolutely one of the coolest things about WIXOSS's GP. It did a lot of heavy lifting to keep every round interesting and the field unpredictable, and it gave a lot of players who might not be aiming for top 8 something to look forward to. We have got to bring back top L reg prizing. I'm sure a lot of people might hear that and say, we want to, but it's out of our control. I get it. I'm not saying it's a shortcoming of any of the tournament organizers. Tucker or Tommy, you've got to make this happen. And while I'm at it, some side events wouldn't hurt either. Anyway, enough of that for now. Nothing's perfect, and despite those rants, GP Dallas was a hell of a fun time. After the GP, my friends and I explored Dallas a little bit on that Sunday, ate some more good food, and visited some really awesome places like the Reunion Tower and the Retro Gaming Museum, both of which I'd highly recommend. Finally, Monday morning it was time to go home. And with that, I left Texas behind and went back to the everyday once again, very satisfied with the fun times I had at the Dallas GP. So that's the story, selectors. That's what the game was like, what kind of decks were at the GP, who came out on top, and my personal experience with the whole thing. I've already said all I can about the Dallas GP, so there's just this. I hope everyone who came had a great time, and I can't wait to see you all at the next one. And thanks for using the assist line. Thank you for calling the assist line. The WIXOSS media you requested is complete. However, please stay on the line for more content. To subscribe and receive more WIXOSS content, please press the subscribe button on your screen now. The assist line values your feedback and encourages you to leave your comments in the indicated section. To repeat this media, press the replay button on your device.